When I was growing up, I was always known as Joe's little sister. It seemed like no one knew my name. They only knew me as an extension of who she was. And in response, I began to dislike the things she liked, and I forged my own path as someone with very different interests. I wanted my own identity. Identity is defined as who a person is in an adolescence. Figuring that out is essential to maturing and moving forward. It's a main task that teens need to accomplish, but it's not an easy one. In our culture, there's a dimension of identity that has swelled in importance, sometimes overshadowing things like personality, abilities, interests, social roles, likes and dislikes, and belief systems. Exploring sexual identity, sexual orientation, and gender identity seem to rise above exploring any of the other things that make us who we are. But let's stop for a second. Let's make sure we have our definitions straight. Sexual identity is your own internal sense of where you see yourself in regard to your gender. Sexual orientation is a pattern of emotional, romantic, or sexual attraction that you feel toward a particular gender. And gender expression is the way that you express your sexual identity with things like behavior, clothes, hairstyles, or a way of relating to the world. As young people are figuring out who they are, there are some concrete questions about sexuality that they feel like they need some solid answers for. In fact, for many young people, they feel like once they settle into their sexual identity, they will know who they are, and then they can settle into being that person without having to carry the stress that comes from identity formation any longer. But the truth is, we are far more than sexual beings, and our identity is meant to be formed over time with many different ingredients rather than being boiled down to just one thing. It's not as easy as that. When sexual identity becomes the center of a young person's identity quest, it's like cooking a soup with just one ingredient. It's not enough. So how do we help take back identity formation and invite young people into the messy and multicolored adventure of discovering who God created them to be? Well, here are a few ideas. First, let's remember, our job isn't to change a teen's feelings or behaviors. Our job is to get them to consider these feelings in light of the fact that their true identity comes from knowing they are made and loved by God. Let's help them establish a relationship with Jesus that is a foundation for all of life's questions. Second, we need to let kids know why we believe what we believe about sexuality. When we stay silent, we actually say a lot. Not talking about sexuality tells teens it's something to fear. It also tells teens they can't talk to us about important things, and that's the opposite of the message we want to get across. Next, we need to explore identity, not just sexuality. We need to ask questions to explore their story beyond sexuality. We need to ask open-ended questions about their abilities, their interests, and their likes. We need to help them discover things about themselves that they haven't even realized. We need to answer questions with questions, like, what thoughts or experience is that question coming out of? Or what do you expect my answer to that one will be? We need to listen with care, without worrying about delivering any information until they really want to hear what we think. Finally, we need to engrace God's process. Let's walk respectfully and patiently with teens. And often that means they'll first find a place of belonging with us, which might lead them to believing that their identity has everything to do with being made in God's image. And maybe then they'll be ready to explore behaving out of that identity.